Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another session of Getting Real Estate with Stacey. Today I have with me Phoebe.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Phoebe Altman from Douglas Elliman in Merrick.
Tell me how you got into this industry.
How did I get into this industry? I feel like I've always loved real estate. I grew up in Manhattan, and my mom had a beach house. My parents got divorced. My dad had a loft in Soho and a really beautiful property upstate. So I always thought houses, loved different locations. I actually bought my first piece of real estate with my mother and another partner when I was 17.
Wow,
It was
that's
supposedly,
unbelievable.
I know, and this is the sad part. I wanted to keep it, and within a year or two, they wanted to sell it, and it turns out that it was a piece of Telluride Mountain in Colorado. I like who knows what would have happened if we
So,
had
what did you do?
kept
You
it.
did it as an investment property? You rented it out,
Well,
or?
no, I wanted to keep it. I thought it was so amazing just to own a piece of the planet. Like I just love the
Right.
so I wanted to keep it. I didn't even care, but he moved out to Colorado, was watching it, and then it was just too much for him and he said, "Let's just sell it." And I said, "No, I'll keep it." And I wasn't even an adult, so I didn't have a say, so I had to sell my
Of course.
piece.
It's not like you could go there and live there or upkeep it or anything like that. So,
Exactly.
it was
Yes.
really.
So I really didn't have a choice, but
I was going to say, growing up with a place in the city and a place in upstate or in the country, that's really having the best of both worlds. That's wonderful.
you would think, but I definitely felt like the poor little rich girl because my parents were divorced. So here it was, I went to private school, and yet to get a new pair of sneakers, I had to show my mom the holes in my sneakers. Like it was just never felt like
tough.
I had enough.
Yeah, it's tough coming from a divorce. Well, you and I
Yes.
both come from divorce homes and are divorced as well.
Oh my God, do you
So
think there's
that's,
a trend?
no, I don't think it's a trend. And,
Ah,
hopefully the next generation will not go through that because we've learned from our mistakes and our parents' mistakes. And, the kids nowadays are getting married older, they're having careers, especially females first. And I think that'll
you
hopefully
know,
end with this generation.
just on that subject because I feel like you're doing real estate and women, and so this is like a woman. Like I feel like all of this blends. So I just want to say that I feel like even though I'm a child of divorce and I did get divorced with my kids, I feel like I haven't repeated a lot of the same mistakes with them. Like I've given them this loving home, and that's one reason that I didn't work when they were younger. My mom was a career woman, and she dedicated herself to her job, and we had nannies, and we're just never. So I feel like I haven't repeated the same mistakes, and my kids had a really good upbringing.
That's great. So you're only in the real estate industry well, tell me how
Yes.
you got into it.
So that's another thing that's a little circuitous. So I've only had my license for a little over a year. I think, yeah, a year and a half. Can't believe it. It's only been a year and a half. Before that, though, I had this beach property that I started running as I had accounts on VRBO and Airbnb, and I developed a huge online business. I had weddings that would come out and rent out my place, and I had like 26 rentals a year some years.
That's like a full-time job in
It
itself.
was like a full so it was constant, and I learned how to write up contracts and manage a property. I learned how to advertise it. I learned how to deal with the public when when they would come in, and I learned how to deal with them once they were there and there were issues happening. So I set up all kinds of accounts with plumbers and cleaning people and everything on demand because it's also on an island, and a lot of times I couldn't even get there.
I was going to ask you, where was that?
Fire Island, Ocean
Oh,
Beach.
Fire Island, of course. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
Yes, yes. So that was really seasonal too, though.
it was seasonal.
Yeah.
Yes, it was seasonal. But during the off season, I was intaking all the contracts and lining everything up.
For the summer.
Yes,
Right.
but during the summer, it was constant where I would go out there in between the rentals, make sure everything was okay.
Right. What was the
So-
season considered?
Well, the season kept lengthening and lengthening with destination weddings. And so the season started, it was more like Memorial to Labor. And by the time I was done, it was from the beginning of May till the end of October.
Oh, October. Wow.
It really extended. In fact,
Yeah.
people were even asking in November, but I didn't have a heated house. It was just,
So it wasn't
yeah.
really worth it. Yeah, at that point, the
Yeah.
weather changes and it's cold. Did you have a fireplace?
yes.
Oh, so that's nice. Wood burning.
Yes.
Very nice.
Really like old-fashioned beach house, 5 bedrooms.
So what
Big.
happened with that? So that's how you got
So
into.
I had to sell that during COVID, and it was heartbreaking for me and my kids that we had to give it up. So I was really, really down, and just I was talking to a friend and saying, I don't know what to do. I feel like a piece of me is missing, and I loved running this property management business. And she said, Phoebe, get your license. And it was like
amazing.
a light bulb went
Yep.
off. I'm like, why didn't I
Think of
ever
that
think of
myself,
that
right.
before? It was the strangest thing that
You were in real estate, but you actually weren't in real estate, so to speak.
Right.
That's so funny. It was like you were handling it like a real estate agent, but you really weren't. But that's now you're doing it all.
And you know what? And
great.
so it felt like what I'm meant to do. Like real estate feels like what I was always meant
Right.
to do.
So what happened? So you sold the house, and then you got your
Sold the
license,
house.
and
Then-
so you
and-
got your license during the pandemic. You were studying during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, I was living in a little vacuum because you couldn't go into any classes, and I did this online one, and it took me months. And I remember like sitting there I must have done 50 exams for the courses. They had an exam after each chapter. There were 45 chapters. And it was not easy. I mean, some of it, like each exam was on a completely separate topic. That was, some of it
And you
included a
didn't know
lot
what
of
was
math.
going to be on which.
Well, you studied that, and you could, but it was overwhelming. I didn't think it was going to be so hard. And of course, the New York State exam was the easiest thing you could ever imagine. But this course that I took wants their reputation to be upstanding. So 99 point something % pass rate. So they made their course so difficult so that you would ace the state exam.
Right, that's great. Okay, so you passed it the first time?
Yes,
for you.
totally. In fact, I thought it
for
was
you.
so comical. But then some of the questions were so obscure. Like, in how many years does a civil servant need to get their license? And I said, civil servant? Like, that's not even what I am. So some of the questions seemed so
Tricky.
obscure.
And they were trying to trick you. Right?
Yeah, and I didn't study about civil, so it was sort of funny that way. But luckily, yes, I did pass.
Good for you.
And then because it was in COVID, it took so long. It took 5 weeks to find out, whereas usually it takes within a week to find out. So I was sitting there for 5 weeks, like everything just,
right.
yeah.
So were you able to get into the actual thick of it while the real estate market was amazing during the pandemic, or did you come in towards the tail end of it?
I'd say I came in at the tail end, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how are you doing now?
I think I'm doing amazingly. I mean, my office had an award ceremony where they honored me for being such a new agent with so many closings.
Wow. So how many are you up to so far?
So within basically my first year, I am going to the closing table for my 9th time on Friday.
Congratulations. Good for
Thank
you,
you.
Phoebe. That's great.
Thank you.
That's really good.
And it's really funny because my first listing was I got my first listing, and I went into the manager and I said, I got Baltic Place and Monopoly. Like I said, you know how you go around the Monopoly set, and that very first property, that's what I got. Like here I live in Merrick. Properties are, anywhere from 500 to 2.5 million. I got a co-op, so that's the lowest of the low in real estate, a 1-bedroom for $199,000. And I was so happy, though, because it was my first listing.
Right,
it was
and it
my
was easy
listing.
to turn over.
Well, it actually wasn't that easy to turn over because it's a co-op and it's a 1-bedroom, and it wasn't, but you know what? I worked so hard for that listing. I put my all into it, and the seller was thrilled. He was thrilled when I told him that price because it was actually double what he paid for it a couple years before. So I came to him and said, you know what? I think the market can handle this price. And the market handled that price, but I got him one of the highest prices for a unit like that in the shortest amount of time.
That's great.
And that's like my logo for every house that I've listed so far. I've gotten the highest price for that type of house in the shortest amount of time.
That's great.
I market like crazy.
So which is very important, the marketing part of it. So what do you do when you're not in doing real estate?
Real estate. No,
Very
I'm not
funny.
kidding. It's gotten that way. Like, what did I do? I went somewhere yesterday and I'm like, oh, hi, I'm a real estate agent. It's just, it's.
Well, I've been with you. We've worked at street fairs together. We do that too on the weekends when they have the big street fairs. So I'm there doing the loans and you're there doing the real estate, and it's fun. It's fun when you can incorporate that into being social and also, in what you do for a living.
Yeah, well, that's why it's great to be with people like you because, I mean, you're even known around here as being so good at that. You're
Oh,
so
thank you.
good at getting out there and just,
Networking. I love
yes,
it. I do
you're
love
amazing
it.
at it.
Thank
so.
you. Thank you. I enjoy it. I really do. I also think when you enjoy what you do and you believe in your product and the company you work for and you believe in yourself, that it's easy to just put it out there. It really is. It's like this is, Lakeview Mortgage Bankers, besides the fact that my brother's the president, I love what we do. I was telling somebody else during another interview, when I said to Lauren originally, I was like, what is it about this that you love? And he said, I make people's dreams come true. And I was like, wow, you're right. You really do. If somebody, I can get them a loan for a house that they never thought that it would ever even be possible.
And you get
It's
that
life-changing.
feeling. You get that feeling here. Like you guys definitely go the extra
Oh, thank you.
mile and you are so creative about it and you're so hands-on. I mean, so that's the kind of people that I want to surround myself with and be like in the business because that
that's
is
great.
how I run my business too.
Absolutely. Also, it's funny because the podcast that we just did, we were just talking about how we are a one-stop shop, and a lot of people, realtors especially, or even clients, borrowers, they don't realize that we do everything under one roof. The processors, the underwriters, the closing attorney, everything is right here. So it
Right
just
here.
makes it so convenient
It
for
makes it
everybody.
seamless.
It's seamless. That's
Yes.
exactly what it is. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
And
Thank
we will
you
definitely
for
have you
inviting
back
me.
next time with Barb because she also works with another realtor. So we definitely
Yes,
can
I'm
have
on
her
a
back
team,
together.
and that's another thing that changed everything when I was asked to be on a team.
So when you started out, you were solo, and then
I was solo. So when I first got to Element, I felt like, seriously, I felt like I walked into a room and it was completely dark and I couldn't see a thing and I just had my hands in front of me the whole time. I felt like I was blind. I felt like it was such a learning curve. I can't even begin to tell you. And, as great as people were, they had their minds on their own
their own
business
team,
and they didn't even have the time or the inclination to be helping me. And so I was like, I can't explain it, but it was so hard
Lost.
to start.
You felt lost.
I was lost. I felt lost all the time. I felt like crying all the time. Like I'd be like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I would go into the office manager and I'd just be like crying and I don't know what to do. And I would go to the amazing woman who runs, Anna runs like the office. She's the receptionist. She's the front desk, and how do I do this? And she'd sit there with me and show me,
that's
and
great.
I'd go home. Oh no, I can't remember how to do it, and then she'd work through it with me. But there were so many things to learn. It was just.
So what brought you there? What made you go to?
So I lived in the Merrick area for over 20 years, and
Same.
I just. Right. So I just felt like everywhere I looked, there was an Element sign. Like I felt
Right.
like Element was the real estate market where I was.
Right.
And it really is. So I was brave enough to get in touch with the realtor that had sold me my house. And we sort of became friends. And I said, you know what? I want to come in. And so she introduced me to the manager and they interviewed me and they said, listen, we really only want people that are going to do this full time and put their heart and soul into it. And I quit my job that I had.
What did you do before?
Well, what I did before I had kids was I had my own personal training and modeling business. When I had my kids right around 9/11 and my business was in Manhattan and my husband and I sort of decided, okay, I'm going to stay home and raise the kids. He almost didn't make it home on the day of 9/11. He was at Lehman
building?
Brothers.
Oh, boy.
So so we just made the decision. I'm staying home. I'm raising the kids, and I did that for many years. And then I decided to become a TA, and I was a TA for the Merrick School District. And so I was doing that when I got my license, and I was running that other business, the luxury rental
Right.
property
In
business.
Fire Island.
Yes. So I made a choice after a couple months of being at Element that I was going to quit and dedicate myself.
To that. So they brought you in, you got on a team, and the rest is history.
Yes, but it took me a while to get on the team, and it felt so great to get on this team. Yes.
I know the members of your team. They're great. They're really good people.
They are. They've been amazing. Evan Mogilevsky.
He's a leader, team leader.
Yes.
And Barbie is who you work with also.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say, the thing that I love about doing this podcast is that I speak with women of all different ages. Some starting at 25, some starting at I got into the industry also later in life, and people don't realize that when you reinvent yourself and you start all over, studying and going through everything all over in your late 40s, early 50s, it is a life-changing experience, and it is definitely it can be exhausting and exhilarating and stressful and thrilling and all these highs and lows until you finally get to where you're supposed to be. But it definitely is. I commend you. I know, believe me, I know exactly what it feels like, and you're an inspiration.
Thank you. You're sweet. Thank you. And real estate is a roller coaster. I mean, I didn't think there are many surprises. I did not think it was going to be quite such a roller coaster. I mean, there are days when you're so high, but other days when you're so low, when an offer isn't accepted, or when you don't get a listing on a house, or when someone tells you that, you're their friend and they don't know if they should list with you, or, it's... But then there are the highs of, clients writing you these beautiful reviews with 5 stars and saying they couldn't have done it without you, and, showing you their baby pictures and asking you to come over and see their babies,
or the way they set up the house, or the way they finished and decorated it. That's great.
I just closed a couple of weeks ago with a friend, and she keeps sending me pictures of the house, and every day she's like, I couldn't have done this without you, and thank you so much.
So
and
rewarding.
It is. It's so rewarding.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys again next time.